Hello and welcome back to the Real Music Talks. On today's episode, we have Aubrey Eels. How are you doing
That's right.
today?
Hello. Good, thanks. Yeah, really good.
Good, good. So let's get right into it. I wanted to start with kind of finding out a bit more about you guys as an artist. And my first question was, who's actually in the band?
Me.
Everything is you, right?
Yeah, everything is me. I mean, sometimes in the past I've gone out with a drum machine. Sometimes I have employed a drummer. But the thing with drummers, good drummers, some are very passionate people and they have lifestyles that reflect that. Therefore, they may not be reliable. They want lots of money. And, and if you get a duff drummer that turns up, it's not quite the same. So, I know a few very good drummers and they have come on board with me. But if I don't get a drummer, then I use a drum machine and keep the money myself. If you get, say, 150 quid, then it's better in my pocket. But yeah, Aubrey Eels is just me and a bass guitar and a few pedals, but they don't ask for any money or beer. So yeah, just me.
And how did you end up doing this sort of, have you been in different bands before? Like, what's your kind of musical past been like?
Yeah, I mean, basically, new wave of British heavy metal, and I've always liked punk rock music. But I was in 1973, there was a lad called Peter Edinburgh. I went to school with him, and he brought two albums into school. And one was Raw Power by the Stooges, and one was Weasels Rip My Flesh by Frank Zappa.
Okay.
And suddenly I just loved it, and before that it had always been Deep Purple and, bands of that ilk. And a lot of my friends, were into heavy metal. So I tagged along with them, because it was fun. There's a gang going out together doing what lads do. But I always had a bit of a penchant for the Ramones and, like I say, Iggy Pop, Richard Hell, and all them sort of chaps, John Cooper Clarke. And it never sat well with heavy metal, it's all denim and leather and, all that sort of pulling faces and, grimacing and that sort of stuff. And with a bit of arthritis now, I can't do that, So. But yeah, so I carried on with the heavy metal band. I still play with a band called Witchfind and Overdrive. We still gig in Europe and we've been to America. But when the lockdown came, it suddenly was an opportunity to do what I love. So I resurrected some riffs and got some words together. And a lad called Chris Whitehead, who I've known for many years, a very talented lad. We put some songs together, and there's on YouTube there was a titled little film called How Lemmy Gets His Sound, and it's a little I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen that, no.
It's Lemmy playing with Murder One, which is his Marshall amp. And he says most bass players sound like this.
Oh, actually, I know this one. I know this one.
And then he cranks it up and he said, but I sound like this.
It's
and
all the way up.
I just had this thing with the start of lockdown, because I couldn't see any other band members. If you sound like Lemmy, you don't need anything else. So that was it. I thought, stuff them. Got the bass sound together, and I've never looked back. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So obviously, like, punk is known for like quite political lyrics and quite sort of anti-establishment and stuff like that. Like, how does that kind of play into it with what's going on at the moment?
Well, I think some genres of punk play into politics, but then life is politics. So, I've got a song called, Call Up the Council, which is a true story of me going to trying to get rid of my full bins. And because of the red tape at the local council, they wouldn't take them because I breached some recycling policy. And therefore, I was left with full bins for more weeks than I needed. And it's a simple tale of me going to the recycling centre. But that's politics at grassroots, isn't it? You know, so yeah, you just got to write about your life. You know, not too much Narnia in the cupboard and fantasy stuff. Just write about real life, and that's, to me, that's what punk rock's about. You know, if you listen to a lot of Ramones stuff, it's not got the politics maybe that some bigger punk bands have tried to talk about. And it's the same with Iggy Pop. You know, it's just about your life, and that's as political as I want to get. You know, I don't believe in party politics. And some of these chaps who follow like Red Wedge and all that Oasis nonsense, you know, they're as bad as each other. You know, but you know, it's about growing up, isn't it? You know, and not thinking that, you know, Keir Starmer is going to be better than, you know, David Cameron, whoever the prime minister is at the time. You know, because they're all as bad as one another. It's them and us. You know, they've got, you know, Cameron and Boris and all them, they don't understand how we live in the slightest, you know. They ain't got a clue. And why would they? You know, they went to schools that we didn't go to and lived lives and got more money, and their life is very different. And, you know, for me, politics is just about trying to get through life. And it's nothing to do with Westminster or whoever's in office or whoever you vote for, you know. Yeah.
Interesting. So obviously that's just kind of like makes it relatable, and to a lot of people, that's what like music's really about, I guess. Like it's way more relatable to a lot of people than, you know, following like leaders that, you know, are in government and stuff like that. It's something else.
I mean, it's just selfish stuff to me, and Chris and you know, when we write songs, it's really, you're just writing for yourself. And if people relate to it, then they'll maybe come and see you and maybe listen to what you do. And them that don't, you know, that's fine. You know, if they're into Gary Barlow, they don't understand what we're doing. You know, it's just different worlds, and that's good because you can come into what we do or I do, or not. You know, or listen to you know, like I say, Ed Sheeran and stuff, and yeah, it's just great that there's the diversity and anybody can link into anything. And maybe a few hundred people will link into what I do, and that'd be great, you know. Yeah, all right, good.
And what does your kind of like songwriting process look like? Like, does it start with like a bass line, or do you sort of write down lyrics as you think of them?
Well, when I write with Chris has written a lot of poems in the past. He used to belong to a band called There Must Be Russians, who fairly well known in Sheffield. And he's a very, as I say, a good chap and a good friend. And how the process when we used to meet and know each other, which was in the 80s, is that he would write a poem and I would strum some chords to it, and that we had a song. But more recently, because he lives in Whitby now, he's sort of sent me poems over the years that I've kept. And what I do, I edit them and I'll add a couple of verses if I'm short, and write some music and then send stuff back to him. And so that's one way that we do it. Or I write songs on my own. As I say, Call Up the Council was just a personal event that happened one day.
Yeah.
And I wrote it down. And then you have to try and find some rhythm and add a few chords to it, you know, chords on the bass, you know. And basically, once you've got that going, then you've got a song. But most of my songs I try to keep as short as possible, because I like songs, like I say, the Ramones, that just get to the point, deal with it and leave and finish. And you don't have to have a bridge, and anything unnecessary or irrelevant in my mind, just don't do it. Cut it out, you know, and I like that. Yeah. So, and now it's a personal challenge to just, you know, get songs as short as you can. And once you finish saying what you want to say, unlike during this interview where I am waffling on a lot, you know, which is the antithesis of what I try and do, but just keep it as short as possible and get on to the next one, you know? Yeah.
What's your take on the opposite side of that? So say like, you know, prog bands that might have a half an hour song. Like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I like a lot of different stuff, you know. If you know, Uriah Heep or Rush or you know, any of those sort of bands, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, you know, I've got time for them, you know, when the time's right, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, the longest single in history, is very listenable, you know, when you're in the mood. And you know, although I love Iggy Pop and, like I say, the Stooges, I don't listen to them all the time. You know, if you want to listen to some other stuff, the worst thing you want to do, you know, is music in the wrong occasion. You know, and if you want to chill out and put a long melodic song on, then that's what you got to do. And you know, it's good stuff. You know, I mean, that's the great thing about music. You know, like you say, it engages people and different times, but you know, and moods and. But what I love, as I say, is the thing I'm passionate about is the stuff I do. But you know, obviously, being a single person, you can't knock out a 6-minute tune. I wouldn't have the energy at my age.
Keep it short and sweet. It's a lot easier then at that point.
Then you can have a breather, you see, and have a drink. You know, it's a bit like having a boxing match. You know, you do 2 or 3 minutes and then have a sip of anything you like. Yeah.
So obviously punk music's known for obviously being quite simple compared to like the prog stuff we were just talking about. Do you think no matter what genre you're in, it's important to do some kind of formal musical training, or do you think that doesn't matter at all?
Don't matter in the slightest. I think music is you know, you can get some. I know there's some local bands and they take time to learn, say, a 10cc song, and they want to cover it in a pub, and yeah, they'll spend weeks doing it and learning it all, and this is obviously just a personal opinion, and they know every time the hi-hat opens and Lol Cream plays something, and they know every note going, and they work out all the harmonies, and it's boring as shit, you know. So I think even bands like, well, if you take Rush, for example, very technical stuff. No doubt they know about music theory without question, but you've got to have that passion and energy to make it listenable. And, you know, yeah, bands like Hawkwind maybe don't have the musical training, but because it's energetic and passionate, then it works. And I think that's all there is to it, you know. When them old geezers were sat around the campfire knocking out, you know, on bits of wood and chanting, I don't think they were too worried about what notes they were hitting, you know. It's to make it's got to be engaging, it's got to be passionate. And you know, and if it's not, then you might as well, in my opinion, you might as well pack up rather than be a bad printer, you know, working out all the bloody notes and, you know, and then why bother? Oh dear. Maybe their passion is wasted on me. I don't know. I'm doing them a disservice.
So I think it's really clear, like you're passionate about music, and you know you do it for fun, right? If I've got that
definitely.
correct.
Yeah.
So what do you do outside of music was one question, and then also, what advice would you give to people that take themselves too seriously as a band?
Well, no, I can't give advice. No one should give anybody any advice at all. I disagree with advice. I've never listened to advice, and look where I've got, nowhere, you know. But anyway, yeah, because I take what I do seriously. So if they're taking what they do seriously, then good for them, and go for it. But all I'm saying, it's not my cup of tea, you know. yeah, so I can't never give advice because we're all different, aren't we? And like even somebody like Paul McCartney, who's the most celebrated and richest rock star on the planet and famous and all that, you know, he got where he got through efforts of other people, and you know, it's all luck. You know, it is luck. Why one band gets on, and you know, Witchfind, as I say, I play for them, Witchfind, and they used to support Def Leppard, and now, you know, Def Leppard have gone, and if they announce they're doing a gig, they get 20,000 people turning up. If I announce I'm doing a gig, I'll lucky if I get, you know, 50 at the minute. So we're not in a place to advise anybody, really. Just do what you want to do. Oh, that's a bit of advice. Sorry about that. Oh, you can't get away from it, can you? Terrible. And the other question was, what do I do outside of work? Well, for many years, what did I do? I can't. It seems a long time ago now. When I was a teenager, as well as being in this new wave of British heavy metal band, which I'm still in, as I said, now and again. We do about 3 gigs a year, which isn't really enough to keep us going, but that's another story. Anyway, cut long story short, I used to knock around with a lot of people who worked at a local hospital, nurses, and I used to go up the social club, and they said, we used to walk in, and they always got in free, and I was stopped at the door and asked for, I think it was 75p entry fee. And being, you know, you don't have much money, 75p nearly got you a pint when I was 17. And I thought, why are they getting free? And they said, well, if you work at the hospital, you're getting free to the social club. I said, where can I join? And I actually, these girls said, well, why don't you train to be a nurse? So I actually joined the NHS, and I trained as a nurse to get free membership in the social club. And I just stuck around at it, and that's what I did. And then I got an office job, and then I got a bit of promotion and got made redundant. So 11 years ago, I got made redundant, and that's when I thought, well, stuff it, I'll just stick with the music. So for the past 11 years, all I've done is music, you know, and lived off. You know, you don't need much money anyway, do you? People I'm not a big person into stuff. If you're into stuff and ambition, there's nothing worse than getting ambitious, is there? Because you never quench it. Because once you get somewhere, you get you know, people into cars, for example, if they get I don't really understand cars, but if you get from a hire car from John Cooper Clarke onto a BMW, and then do you graduate to an Audi, and then graduate to a Ferrari, you never get there. So ambition is a terrible infliction that you know, some people are cursed with, but I've not. So I've never been into stuff or cars or whatever, and so, you know, money wise, you just get by best you can.
I guess, I suppose it's what like drives the ambition, because if the ambition is just a bigger house or a nice car, then for sure it's just an empty, never-ending cycle.
And in that case, never ever be a musician or a performer,
for sure.
because you'll never make any money. Most people don't make any money. You know, very few people make any money. Yeah, be a promoter, be an accountant, be a roadie and steal things. You know, do this sort of stuff, but don't be the person on the stage, Mrs. Morrison, because you'll never. I'm giving advice again. I'm going to stop. Bloody hell. I've blown up. Don't give advice. When you've said don't give advice, but I'm giving advice. I'm not giving advice. I'm giving an opinion. That is different. But yeah, so, you know, there's no money in it. I mean, club singers, they do well. You know, karaoke, how do you say it? I don't know, karaoke. Is that right?
Karaoke, yeah.
Singers, they do good. You know, I've got a few friends who used to be in bands, and now they have backing tracks and go out singing. Yeah, and they're on 250 quid for 3.5 hours, and you know, that's money, isn't it? You know, it's not big money, but it's money. if you're doing it 4 or 5 times a week. But I think you've got to do music or anything like this just because you love it, because there'll be more failures than successes. And like Churchill says, you know, I can't remember what Churchill said, something about failure, going from one failure to another without losing enthusiasm. That is success. Yeah. Good old Churchill.
So talking about that in a sense, like what do you think of how the music industry is these days compared to say 20 years ago, 30 years ago, in terms of like how streaming has taken over and, you know, how the records have been phased out? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why the business has gone back to vinyl, to try and challenge that, because if it's on vinyl, you can't get it digitally. And so I think a lot of bands are selling vinyl out the back of the car to make some money. So that's one way to try and do. But I think it's just, from what I understand, I mean, I'm not in the music business as such, but as a spectator, I would like to be in the music business. But that's there we go. That's not my choice. But I think people, from what I gather, what people are talking about is turned on its head. Yeah, it's just turned on its head, and you know, where people used to put a record out and tour to promote the record and make a lot of money, now I think your record just lets people know, or your recordings, whatever platform they're on, lets people know that you're about, and maybe you make a few quid on the gig, you know, and also merchant, you know, flogging the odd T-shirt and bandana and socks and whatever, you know, it's, you know, that's the way to make the money. You know, that's why Motorhead did well, and the Smiths and Morrissey, he does well on it. I got me John Cooper Clarke T-shirt on under this, you know, and that's where you know, if you have 200 people in a hall, the last John Cooper Clarke gig I went to, there was about 300 people, and loads of them bought all his stuff. And if you make 30 quid on a T-shirt, that's a lot of money, isn't it? You know. But the business as such, I don't understand. I don't understand what record companies do. I'm not sure really. I understand the live side of it, but not the music biz. You know, it's a mystery. I don't think it exists.
Who knows?
I don't. I don't. I think the way forward is I wrote something a few years back, and it had a little bit of success. And I had a letter from Julian Clary and a letter from Ian McClellan. I can't say that either. And both of them, without talking to each other, both said the way to get on is just get a good agent. You know, so I think that's, you know, I'm still looking. Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it don't, because like I say, I don't really understand the music business, and so I can't comment. I suppose that if I was in an interview for a job, I'd just say, I'm sorry, can't comment on that question.
I suppose, like, in that sense, like, how do you view it as a consumer, maybe then? So, like, how has, like, your consumption of music changed, or is it not?
It hasn't. Still listen to the Ramones. I still listen to Iggy Pop. I still listen to Slade. I don't listen to anything. I listen to some old jazz stuff, but no, I'm not a consumer really. It's tricky, isn't it? Because there's a lot of talented people out there. I think doing what I do, if I listen to other people, like if I watch, say, Ed Sheeran, I'm mentioning Ed Sheeran because I don't know anybody else in the current, you know, but if I listen to him, I'd probably want to and think, well, he's got on. I'm going to buy myself a little guitar and I'm going to go and be a singer like him. And that's how maybe I don't know. So I'm not a consumer, and so I can't answer that really. Don't listen. And I've got all my Iggy Pop records and Ramones and all that. So I just listen to them over and over again. Yeah. And it's still, the great thing is, the reason that I do it is when I hear like Move Over, say, by Slade, I get the same buzz from it that I got when I was sort of 12. And while it does that to me, like when the drum entry for sort of Lust for Life comes on, it takes me back to being a teenager. And so while I get that, who else can I listen to? Unless they do that for me. And it's weird, isn't it? And that's the great thing about music, because music still does that to me. Yeah, it makes me feel, whoa, hey, gives you a little tingle, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's those connections that you have with certain songs. Like for me, obviously, like being much younger, you know, I've got different connections to bands from when I was 13.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it just goes round in that kind of circle.
But those bands give you that same feeling and lifts you emotionally, and always will. And they're the bands you'll stick with, you know. And you discover new bands, but I don't know, they never. I always see in new bands. I mean, because people say one or two of my songs. I mean, I come from Grantham, which is the same place as Jason Williamson, and some people say, "Oh, you sound a bit like Jason Williamson." But if you out of Sleaford Mods, but if you shout in Grantham and get a bit leery, everybody sounds like Sleaford Mods, you know, because that's got a Grantham accent, and you know, you get a bit shouty. Well, you sound like that. But you see, people say some of our stuff sounds like Sleaford Mods, but see, I don't see it, because where I'm aiming is the lyricists like I say, John Cooper Clarke, Ian Dury, Morrissey, you know, those sort of, which were way before the Sleaford Mods. And you know, plus I play guitar, and so I don't really understand that, but I understand people's connection. You know, they hear the stuff, bit of a Grantham accent, and you know, then that label has been asserted by, which is very flattering actually, because you know, the Sleaford Mods are quite successful, I understand. Yeah.
Okay, we're nearly out of time, but one more question. What's kind of the plans for you for the future now? Or do you take it as it comes?
No, I don't take it as it comes. I want to, obviously, like all bands, every band, you just want to reach as many people as you can, which sounds, you know, real cliche, but it's true. You know, I'd love to do some gigs and just have some good experiences of you know, playing to people who want to come and see and hear what I do. Hopefully get a good drummer on board who's not drunk and you know, turns up, got his own car, and maybe the two of us, you know, can do some gigs, and you know, and just have some good experiences, you know, and just keep playing. You know, I've been playing now in different bands many years, and I know I'm not going to stop. It's a hobby that I can do until, you know, I can't physically do it anymore. So the question is, you know, just try and play the same old gigs year in year out like I have done, with a few, you know, like I say, I've played some good gigs, you know, and I want some more of them good gigs. And I think by just trying to package my uniqueness, and I think that's what the lockdown's done for me. It's allowed me to reflect that all the other old shit, you know, if you want to play down a pub and do some, you know, great Chuck Berry songs. I mean, what a great lyricist Chuck Berry is, by the way. But do Chuck Berry songs, that'll be great. But it's the same gig, and I just want to try and do stuff differently. So, in desperation of getting older and the scariness of what we're told in the media, you've got to be desperate and get out there and do stuff.
Yeah, I was for musicians especially, like we can't wait obviously until it's all lifted and we can start gigging again. But yeah,
if I can just interrupt you there, I think the great thing will be, I think when the pandemic lifts, I think it'll be like VE Day. I'm too old to remember VE. I'm too young to remember VE Day. But you've seen pictures of it. I think audiences will be just, they'll want to go for it, won't they? And really get, you know, go crack. I think there'll be a lot of drinking, a lot of dancing, and a lot of singing, and we need to be amongst it. You need to be doing it down Bristol way. I'll be doing it up in Lincolnshire. Ded Sheeran, he's a good lad. He'll be doing it somewhere. You know, he's a bit north of you, I think. But yeah, we're all going to be out there. The 1855, they're a great band. Rat's Arse, they'll be doing it. We're all going to be out there, and it's going to be brilliant. And I can't wait.
Same. No, I think that's a great positive spin to leave everyone with. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate what you've done with this stuff. So thanks ever so much, and bless you.
No worries. Take care, guys. See you next time.
Bye-bye.